"Your 10 years here are over," my wife's sister said, her voice calm, almost clinical. She had just been promoted to CFO, a title she wore like armor, and here I was, wishing her luck with the quarterly reports, trying not to notice the subtle smirk that lingered on her lips. I forced a polite smile, congratulating her, shaking her hand as if nothing had changed between us. But something had. Everything had. I'd been with the company for a decade. 10 years of late nights, of corporate wars fought behind conference room doors, of building relationships and loyalty. 10 years of work I had poured my blood into. And yet, today, it felt like it had all been erased with that one sentence. I went home that night, exhausted, frustrated, and strangely uneasy. My wife noticed immediately. She asked what was wrong, and I brushed it off, muttering something about office politics, promotions, and change. She nodded, her eyes sharp but trusting, unaware that the tension gnawing at me wasn't just about work. The next morning, my phone rang before sunrise. It was the CEO himself. His voice was grave, urgent, commanding. "The board is waiting. Come in early. We need to talk." My stomach dropped. This wasn't routine. Something big had happened. Something that might undo everything I thought I knew about my life. I arrived at the office, still half asleep, my tie crooked, my mind swirling. The boardroom was quiet, the morning sun slicing through the blinds. I took my seat, and the CEO wasted no time. "We've reviewed the recent financial reports. There are discrepancies. Fraud, embezzlement, insider trading. It points to someone very close to the CFO." I blinked. My wife's sister, the new CFO, the woman I had spent countless hours mentoring, advising, and, at times, protecting from corporate pitfalls. And now, the evidence suggested she had crossed lines I never imagined. Shock, disbelief, anger, and a strange, intoxicating curiosity coursed through me. I had always been drawn to her intellect, her audacity, the way she moved through the corporate hierarchy with grace and ruthlessness. But now, this drew me closer to a dangerous edge, one I shouldn't have crossed. That evening, I confronted her privately under the pretense of a casual discussion about work. She laughed, a little too brightly, her eyes calculating, aware of the power she wielded not just over the company, but over me. I had to admit, even to myself, that the thought of her daring and secretive nature stirred feelings I shouldn't have had. A dangerous, forbidden attraction that existed beneath years of family loyalty, beneath marriage, beneath everything I had promised myself I would never touch. It started innocently, or so I told myself. A hand brushed against mine in the conference room. A late-night discussion over documents that lingered too long. A compliment that carried weight it shouldn't. Every interaction was a spark, igniting a fire I had thought I had extinguished long ago. One night, after a particularly tense board meeting, she invited me to her office to review a report. The door closed behind me, and suddenly the air was thick with tension. She looked at me, her eyes unreadable, lips slightly parted. The conversation about the financial discrepancies melted into silence, the kind of silence that spoke louder than words. And then, without warning, she leaned in, one kiss hesitant, electric, shattering all boundaries. I pulled back immediately, guilt and adrenaline surging. But the fire had already ignited. Meetings became excuses. Office hours extended under the guise of work. Coffee breaks turned into secret touches, whispered conversations, and stolen moments. I was a married man, loyal in words but failing in flesh. And yet, every time I looked at her, I told myself it was just a spark of human weakness. Days turned into weeks, and the thrill of secrecy became an addiction. I lied to my wife, carefully crafting excuses for long nights and business trips. My conscience screamed, but desire drowned out the voice of morality. I was trapped in a web of my own making, caught between the safety of my marriage and the dangerous allure of forbidden passion. Then the boardroom scandal escalated. Auditors discovered her manipulations, fraudulent accounts, embezzled funds, misleading reports. She was facing termination, legal consequences. Everything she had clawed for threatened to collapse. I was torn between loyalty, fear, and desire. Could I save her without implicating myself? Should I confess, tell my wife, destroy everything? One rainy night, she came to my apartment. Her eyes were red, not from anger, but from fear. The woman I had been having an affair with, the woman I had allowed to seduce my weakness, was terrified of losing everything. And I realized in that instant that the thrill, the excitement, the lust had cost me more than I had imagined. It had cost morality, peace, and the fragile trust of my marriage. We embraced, not with love, but with desperate need. And in that embrace, I saw the reflection of my own failures, my weakness, my selfishness, my inability to resist temptation. The affair ended that night, not with reconciliation, not with triumph, but with understanding that desire, unchecked, destroys everything it touches. I confessed to my wife weeks later, trembling, ashamed, and broken. She cried, yes, but she also left. She couldn't stay with someone who betrayed not just her, but the moral foundation of our life together. I lost my marriage, almost lost my career, and learned the harshest lesson of all. Intelligence and desire can be intoxicating, but morality and love demand vigilance. Now, whenever I sit in the boardroom, or review a financial report, or see her across the office, I remember that red line I crossed, the betrayal that almost consumed me. And I understand the price of temptation, the cost of desire, and the fragile, fleeting nature of trust. Love, loyalty, and ethics are not mere words. They are lifelines, and once you lose them, there is no turning back.